Hello, everyone. Hope everyone's been having a good Thanksgiving. Today I want to do a little review of Stranger Things season 5. I thought I'd do a little live stream here and talk about it. Uh, they're releasing the episodes. I don't like this. I wish they would release. If they're gonna release episodes in bulk like this, they might as well release it together. But hell, do I know? I guess they wouldn't do it for holidays, but whatever. Um, But the first four episodes came out today. The next three will come out, I believe, on Christmas, and then the final episode will be on New Year's Eve, I believe. So throughout the month, of course, or by the looks of it, or throughout the next month, I guess the rest of the series will come out. But um, I watched the first four episodes. Overall, I thought they were pretty good. I enjoyed it. Um, Some of it is confusing though. Like I'm kind of having like a hard time wrapping my head around some things that are happening. It's a lot of because since there's like a lot of psychic powers going on, there's a lot of things that are real and not real. Um, but there was a couple of things that happened in it that I like kind of predicted. Like, and by the way, there's spoilers in this, as the title says. So if you don't want spoilers, don't watch this. But in the final episode, it's revealed kind of, the other psychic that's there, or the other person with powers, and they think it's Vecna at first, but it ends up being Eight from season 2. If y'all don't remember, she was the only other person who actually survived um, the Hawkins lab massacre. She's there. So now, when the show was kind of talking about this door and what was behind it, and what Levin said it was Vecna, I was like, I don't think it's Vecna. I just didn't, because if it's Vecna, then how was he controlling the Upside Down? I mean, I don't know how they could have gotten to that conclusion. Um, so I'm like, no, it's not Vecna. It's Eight who's controlling it, or who's there. It's not Vecna at all. So that ended up being correct. And the very final scene of the episode, of the last episode, or episode 4, Will uses like psychic abilities, um, which even before the series premiered, I had a feeling something like that was going to happen. Um, I didn't know if it'd be Will or somebody. I mean, Will would make the most sense, I think, because of his connection to Vecna. So I kind of thought that was cool that kind of came true too. It's just Stranger Things is a great show, but it's very predictable sometimes. Um, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know if that's just a me thing or if that's if other people are having sort of the same thing. But kind of I had a feeling that was going to happen. Um, but I mean, overall, it's good. I mean, I don't know. I think the first 3 seasons are peak Stranger Things, especially the third one. I thought was very good. There's just something about those 3 seasons that I don't think these season 4 and season 5 have been able to replicate. I think it's maybe it's because I think it's because the mystery of the Upside Down was still there, and season 4 started like peeling, like finally started revealing some things about the story and what was some of the I don't want to say plot holes, but holes in the plot, I guess. Holes in the story that things that we still didn't have answers for, and I think when season 4 started to do that, it I guess fundamentally changed the show in terms of one of the things that made it interesting was sort of the mysteriousness of the Upside Down and not really knowing what's going on here. I'm not saying that as a criticism, but I'm saying that as a different show. I think so. but it was good. I mean, again, it's not as good as the other seasons, I don't think, in my opinion, but it's good and it's on the right track to creating a good finale. But kind of all I have to say. Any, I guess, standout characters. Will is probably this. I mean, I had a. They said that Will would have a bigger role in the season, so I don't know. But that's my thoughts. Do you guys have any thoughts if you've seen it? There's a couple people watching, so if you watch it, let me. What were your thoughts on it? Haven't seen it. You should watch it. It's pretty good. I mean, I guess I've probably already spoiled it for you, but it's good. It's a good show. Stop last season halfway when Eddie. When Eddie what? I I mean, yeah, the '80s stuff will always be a highlight of the series. That's one of the things that actually made it popular. Was it's a series that appeals, I think, to modern audiences, but also, or like younger audiences rather, and also older audiences. People who it appeals to my generation and my parents' generation. Which are most of the people alive right now. So, um, yeah. I don't watch much TV, mostly just '90s shows. Fair enough. '90s has some great shows, great movies too. I think better movies than shows, to be honest. It does. Sorry about that. I accidentally popped out of the stream, but anyway, yeah, it does appeal to both groups for sure. See, as someone like I love '80s stuff. I love '80s movies. I love '80s shows, cartoons, um, music, um, pop culture, things like that. I just enjoy that era. Comic books. A lot of my favorite comics are from the '80s. So it's one of those things. It's one of the another reason why I like Stranger Things is it's very, of course, it's set in the '80s, so it's heavily focused on '80s pop culture. '90s Seavis Peak, Twin Peaks, X Files, Star Trek, Frasier, Seinfeld, Martin. I mean, yeah, those are great shows. It's just I prefer the movies of that era. I'm not saying the shows are bad. I just think the movies are better. A lot better movies in that era, I think. Now, Star Wars, in terms of books, was peak in that era. I think that's true. Well, I don't know. It's hard to because that's the big debate, right? Like, what's better, like the Bantam era, or the Delray era of the EU? And it's like, well, they're both good for different reasons, and they're also both bad for different reasons. They both have their reasons for sucking. They both have reasons for being good. But I think Bantam, there's just something about it that I think I just love. I love Star Wars. That's the kind of Star Wars, like, it's Star Wars storytelling, but it's like adolescent. It's very amateur. People don't really know what to do in terms of telling Star Wars stories and books and whatever, like Star Wars stories outside the films. Um, so it's one of those things where I like that. I like that it's weirder, that it's more amateur, that it's more still trying to tread new ground and trying to figure out its identity, I think. I also just think it was just more pure. I think the Bantam books just the fact that it's not serious, I think, is a very Very, very good thing. That the '90s books there would be exactly without the Bantam era, there would be no Star Wars books. I think people forget that. People forget that for sure. Hello, Nazo. Bantam books has such a distinct feeling, and there is such a fun element there. Yes, I think it's the if you just want fun Star Wars, read the Bantam era. We got plenty of that there. Now Del Rey, I think, took Star Wars to a different level. I think a much more advanced level. It Star Wars became more mature and serious and dark at times, which I think is great. I think that that works as well. I think it certainly is a um, it was a good thing for Star Wars for it to become like that. Bantam was one of my favorite areas for Star Wars, which yes, it's very fairy tale. It was very fantasy. I think Bantam was more fantasy than anything. When you said it's not serious, that's why I like Skeleton Crew more than Andor. Andor was too serious. Yeah, but I felt like Andor had at least a more compelling story. Skeleton Crew did not have a compelling story. It was fun, but the story wasn't compelling, which is not the same with Bantam. I think the Bantam stories, while they were very fun and lighthearted, they also had compelling stories that you were invested in. Andor, while of course was not fun in that way, or it was very serious Star Wars, it also had a very compelling story that I don't think Skeleton Crew had. So it's kind of a balance there. And so I guess what I like about Bantam is it's not just because it's fun, is why I like Bantam. Um, it also had compelling stories and compelling characters. Happy Thanksgiving, brother. I don't think Skeleton Crew is bad. It's just I just didn't really care for it that much. It was fun, like you said, it was fun, but I forget it exists a lot of the time. So I don't consider Andor Star Wars because it abandoned the fairy tale and fantasy aspect, which is the core of it. I disagree. I think Star Wars, at its core, yes, is a fantasy story, but I also do think you can tell Star Wars stories that are not fantasy but more sci-fi. I think that's certainly true because Star Wars is not pure fantasy; it is a space fantasy, and I think that there are times when it's okay for you to dip into those parts of the mythos. Star Wars is a very complex genre. It can be multiple things at once. Now, I do agree with you. At the core of what Star Wars is, it is a fantasy story, but Andor was telling a different kind of Star Wars story, and I think that's okay. Star Wars is fantasy with sci-fi elements, yes, but it can also be pure sci-fi. If that if that were the case, it could be pure sci-fi, and I'm trying to think of like other Star Wars stories. Like there, are, I mean, X-wing is an example of a more of a sci-fi Star Wars story than just fantasy. Now there were fantasy elements in X-wing, like Corran Horn being force sensitive, but I mean there was a in Andor there wasn't like a shaman lady. So I mean there was kyber crystals. I mean so I mean it did have fantasy elements in Andor too, but it focused more on the sci-fi part. And like I said, I think that's fine. I don't think that negates being Star Wars. Like I said, Star Wars is a space fantasy. The Barbara Hambly books are really sci-fi and weird. Same as the Waru book, the Crystal Star. Crystal Star. I mean, it's both. I don't know. Children's Jedi is. I mean, those are strange books, but like I said, it's I. I'm all people need to they forget that I'm not saying you're doing this, but people who like they're like so overly critical of like the Bantam books, it's like and I'm not saying you can't be critical towards them, but at the same time, it's like um at the how am I gonna word this here? That's when these were like these that was the first time, one of the first times that Star Wars actually started like telling other stories outside of the films, and I think people they were trying to see what worked and what didn't, and Children's Jedi just didn't work, and that kind of story was just never told again. This is separated much from science-based stuff like Star Trek and Babylon 5 that kind of makes it less unique. Um, well, I mean, I don't necessarily think it makes it less unique because if a story being told in the same genre, uh, if it's not good because it's in the same genre or something else, I don't agree with that. Yeah, is it unique? Is it more unique than Starting Battle Fun? I mean, it's in the same realm as those stories. Andor is, but it's still good. I mean, I'm not gonna. Let me put it this way. I think more than fantasy, Star Wars is about characters, the actual characters and the story it's telling. And I think if it's a good story and if it fits in the universe that it's in, and if it is a continuity and if it better explains other parts of the universe, even if it is more of a science fiction genre, I don't think that necessarily makes the story bad. And I think that makes the story worth considering. I love Bantam, but going from I Jedi to Children of the Jedi and then Dark Saber to Children's just mad. But Dark Saber is great. It's a very underrated book. People forget about it because it's stuck in between two other, not so good books. So, but Dark Saber is great. It's yeah, it's great. I think Dark Saber is really good. I don't mind it personally. I think it's decent. I didn't hate it, but I can see why people don't like it. But yeah, Nazo. I guess my point is this: Star Wars can be many genres. So now, if Andor if they did, let's say, like a Skywalker era, like a Skywalker focused film, and there was like no fantasy in it, I would probably agree with you more, Nazo. But since Andor is a spinoff, it's about somewhat of a no-name character who has no relation at all to the Jedi or to the Force. Yeah, I think it's okay. I love his stuff too. I think his I mean, there are problems with his books, but I mean, they're still really good and they sort of they have the heart of George Lucas' Star Wars. So, hello. What's up? How you doing tonight? Just got finished watching final two episodes, part one, Stranger Things season 5. Nice. He probably won't. Not anytime soon. Have you played any SWGMU servers? I don't understand what you're referring to. I don't know what that is. I'm talking about Star Wars Galaxies. If that is what you're asking, no, I have not. Yeah. I have not. I've wanted to because I really like SWTOR a lot. I've played SWTOR. I've spent many hours in that game. But it's something I do want to check out though. Yeah, it's because every fanboy the EU likes High Jedi for whatever reason. No offense, Matt. Matt watches my stuff, so I don't want to offend him. Haha. Yeah, I would really enjoy that game, but I just haven't. I've been playing a lot of Empire of War. I haven't really played a Star Wars like a new Star Wars game in a long time. I don't know. I'll check it out for sure. I know Star Wars Galaxies has a lot of EU references and different things in it, so it's like the Devaronian version, but Cornhorn actually wants me to take him seriously. Maybe, but I don't know. It's just I Jedi. It's just like uh, no, it's just bad. Yes, that's the one I play. I don't play the base game. I don't think people who play Empire War. I don't think they play the base game at all. I mean, they might. They might play the campaign. I've actually never played the Empire War campaign, the base game campaign, or the Force of Corruption campaign. I don't play that either. I just don't really care about it. And those are technically EU canon, but I just don't care. I think Corey loses. I think his Empire War mods are great. We just stream an Empire War game. I have in the past. It's just really difficult because the campaign takes freaking forever. So it'd be really difficult. I mean, I have in the past, so you can look on my channel. I've streamed Empire War in the past. But I'm also not that good at the game. I mean, I'm good at it. I've completed campaigns, but I'm not like amazing at the game or whatever. Also, I've played Fall of the Republic. I've played that. That's a lot of fun. I've played. What's the thing about all the Star Wars games I've played? I've played Jedi Outcast. I've played Jedi Academy. I've played KOTOR 1, 2, SWOTOR, both Force Unleashed games. I've played the original Battlefront 2 campaign, and of course, I've messed around in the arcade and whatever. Um, I've played. What games have I played? That's most of it actually. But I mean, some of the games are so old; it's so hard to play it. But I that's what I've played. I think. I'm trying to think what other games that other Star Wars games I may have played. I've played a little bit of Republic Commando. I never finished it. The plan is to play it again once we get to Invodeon, which will be forever from now because I need to upload the latest video on Invodeon. I have it. I just need to finish it. I need to upload it. Dark Forces, Jedi Academy, Dark Forces 2 is too hard. I haven't played Dark Forces. I've played the sequels, but I've never played Dark Forces. It's just I mean the game is just so old. It's just really hard to play. I own them, funnily enough. I mean I have it on Steam. I just haven't played them. Like I said, I played Jedi Outcast and Jedi Academy. So and those are fun. Jedi Outcast I felt was better, but yep. And it really sucks because those games like Kyle Katarn is in some of the books, but I mean his Jaden Core got two novels before freaking Kyle Katarn did, and that's really sad. It's really sad that like Del Rey and Dark Horse didn't really want to bring Kyle Katarn into a major story. Okay, that's actually a lie. Dark Horse did with the Dark Forces novellas, but Del Rey was. I mean, Kyle has been in novels, but he's like a background character. He doesn't actually really do anything. He doesn't play a role in the story. So it's really sad that Kyle was never really, in more stories. Yep, that would be cool if they do that one day. They actually did. I think they did a Dark Forces remaster like a year ago or something. I don't remember. I think they did though. I'm not even like not even necessarily a or a standalone. Just if he just had more of a story or more of a role in some different books. I mean, he's just really not there. I mean, Kyle was kind of just his own. He's just a video game character, and it's a real shame. But Jaden Core getting two novels is ridiculous. But hell do I know? I never played it. I do need to play it though, but I haven't. Now the KOTOR remake, when that comes out, I'm really worried about that. I've been worried about that game for shoot ever since it was announced. Um, Mainly because I just don't trust Disney. I just don't. No, no, I don't. I just don't because well, I don't think I have to explain it, but there's among like Disney Star Wars fans, and typically Disney Star Wars fans and Disney themselves have very similar takes on different things, but there's this sort of narrative going around that Revan is non-binary, and I have a really sneaky suspicion that they're gonna try and put that in freaking KOTOR remake, the KOTOR remake. And for the morons that think that Revan is not non-binary, Revan is a man. I just want to make that very clear, and that was clear long before KOTOR 2, long before. Well, not well. It may have come out after KOTOR 2, but SWOTOR is see the narrative is that SWOTOR is what made Revan a man. No, that's ridiculous. Revan was made a man, I believe, in the KOTOR campaign guide. That's when that was first established. And taking a gameplay mechanic like being able to create your own character like you can in KOTOR and trying to make that into a narrative um like a narrative or part of the character is ridiculous. Revan is not non-binary, he's not a woman, he's a man, just like the Exile is a woman. I mean, I'm just sick of that freaking narrative, man. I don't really mind Revan and SWOTOR at all. I I think he's okay in that. But ultimately, this whole idea that Revan is non-binary, I feel might seep into the KOTOR remake. I mean, I hope that's not the case, but it's very possible. In fact, I'm gonna Google the status of that game. Mm. So Saber took over it. Saber Interactive. High Republic. I read the first couple of books. I read some of the early comics. It was fine for what it was, but ultimately, I had no desired interest in the series or the story that it was telling because there's nothing you can really do in that era, given what the prequels established about that era, that it was a time of peace and that the Sith had not been seen for 1,000 years. So the High Republic, even if it has some good stories, was ultimately pointless. So I just didn't really care about it, and I low key sold all my High Republic stuff and got rid of it. What I will say is this: the High Republic is perhaps the most um, unique thing Disney Star Wars has ever done, and certainly its most creative thing it's ever done. But either way, I don't care, and I think I also have a very sneaky feeling that they were modeling the story and the era off of the New Jedi Order series, um, and they failed because the High Republic is not the New Jedi Order, and the characters and stories that are in that are nowhere near as good as the characters in New Jedi Order. So, and I've had people like debate me on this. I mean, High Republic, you have these invaders. Now they're not extragalactic, they're not alien, but I mean, some of them are alien, but they're an invading force that is causing destruction. The Jedi has to take care of it. I mean, that's sort of the NJO. Um, I don't know. It was just it was trying to be too much like the NJO. I felt. Now that's just my personal opinion. That's nothing objective, but what is objective is the story is ultimately pointless because you know what's going to happen because you know the prequels. So it's kind of like Rogue One. Rogue One's a good movie, but you know what's going to happen in the end. So it's hard to enjoy it. High Republic's the same way, except worse because despite how Rogue One would eventually end, or how you know it'll end, the characters are still interesting. High Republic didn't have interesting characters in my opinion. So not interesting enough for me to continue reading and buying books or whatever. So ultimately, just didn't care. So I will say this: it was a good attempt, and it was creative. That's what I will say about the High Republic. But they were telling a story in an era that was not really meant to have any story. Now will consensus PX Diaconate win? I don't know, man. It's interesting. Matt Wilkins is a Calvinist. I don't know if you know that. He's a Calvinist, which is funny. I've teased him about it before, but he is a Calvinist. At least I think. Okay, I know he's Presbyterian, and I think he's defended predestination before. Maybe I don't know if he's Calvinist. Let me rephrase that, but he's certainly not Catholic. But I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream. I'm gonna go read a book or something. So, thank you guys so much for joining. I hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving. I know this is supposed to be a Stranger Things review. It kind of was, and then it went off track. Let's see what you asked here. Disney is X or something. They have great FSSP stuff in the South. He's from Louisiana. He's actually he only lives like 4 or 5 hours from where I live. He's very close. I was supposed to go to the damn meetup that happened a few months ago, but I ended up not being able to make it. So, and yes, they do. They actually do have in my diocese. They have FSSP fraternity. If you don't know what that is, it's Fraternal Society of St. Peter's. You know, it doesn't know. They do. They're like the SSPX, but in communion with Rome. It's the only difference. Not the only difference, but they're in communion with Rome and whatnot. But they do have I have an SSP church in my diocese. But anyway, yeah, good night, guys. Thank you all very much for watching.